Hey everyone, it's Alicia, and welcome to another episode of the Of Impact podcast. Today is a very exciting episode because, as you know, here, our mission here is to help empower entrepreneurs to create meaningful businesses of impact. And today we have Eric Bandholz, who has created Beardbrand, started Beardbrand 12 years ago. And he's done some remarkable things in that time and has definitely had an impact not only on his customers, but the entire industry as a whole. So I'm very excited for him to share with you guys his story today. So with that, welcome to the show, Eric. I'm so happy to have you here.
What is going on? Excited to be here.
Yeah, very, very excited. Well, real quick, kind of backing up, just to hear about more of your Beardbrand story. What kind of got you started in that? I've been curious. What got you started in e-commerce and specifically Beardbrand in general?
Yeah, it's been a long journey. 12 years ago was quite a bit different of a life. I always wanted to start my own business, and for a number of years, I was a entrepreneur. I kind of had this strategy of trying to convince my friends and family to start a business, and the lesson I learned is you can't really convince people to become entrepreneurs. You've got to seek out entrepreneurs. Took me about 10 years to learn that lesson and ended up
Mm-hmm.
connecting with my current business partners. But I was like a journeyman salesperson in the beginning of my career out of college. Ended up working as a financial advisor at a mega bank, and they kind of have expectations for you how you dress and how you style your hair and beard. And you can imagine,
Mm-hmm.
like 13 years ago, there's like no facial hair expectation.
Yeah.
So I never really liked that feeling of having to cater my style to the business's styles, and always had this flair for independence. So I quit working there, kind of started doing some side projects, and started growing my beard out. And it was in that journey that I realized there was a lot of guys like me that didn't fit the traditional stereotype of a bearded guy. They're entrepreneurs and designers and lawyers and doctors and all these
Mm-hmm.
places that, historically you were not allowed to grow facial hair. So I started Beardbrand as a way to give those men the tools they needed to grow their beard and care for their beard. And it's been a fun journey. We're an entirely bootstrap business. I have my two business partners, but we have no outside money, no debt
That's
funding to
awesome.
grow. And we've been able to grow by reinvesting our profits and serving our customers and making cool shit, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I was saying before we got on, I've been a big fan of your sea salt spray. It's what I'm a very low maintenance kind of girl, and I don't like doing my hair, and I like things that smell more naturey than fruity. And when I found your sea salt spray, it's my go-to every day for just some texture for
Yeah.
my hair. So I don't know, do you get many girls that buy your products, or is it primarily
Well,
men?
I think we probably do, but it's probably not for their own use. It's more for buying for gifts. Our language is
Yeah.
definitely very much geared towards men. And our sea salt spray was when we launched it. Geez, like 10 years ago or 8 years ago, whenever it was. It was quite innovative. We put kaolinite clay in there, so you may see like it settle at the bottom to mimic the sand that you get in your hair when you go to the beach. Whereas most sea salt sprays on the marketplace when we launched were simply just like salt water, like Dead Sea, or they were,
Okay.
um, for lack of a better term, like a liquid hairspray. Um,
Interesting.
so that's why our product performs so well. Is like that clay will absorb oils. It can almost work as a dry shampoo if you want to
Mhm.
kind of like extend days in between washes.
Oh, I
So
absolutely do that.
the unfortunate thing is like with guys, you have to like educate them on all these things. Like they have no idea what a dry shampoo is, and um,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of education, which fortunately for us is something that we do well when we're introducing new products like that. And sea salt spray is one of our better performing products.
Oh, I absolutely believe it. I've been in love with it. I bought a bunch of bottles that I've had throughout the years. I take it everywhere with me. Speaking of the content and education, I know you guys do quite a bit of that. Like, what is your, I guess, approach when it comes to content creation? Is that a big part of your guys' marketing strategy?
Yeah, when we launched in I mean, we launched the brand in 2012. Like, I had more time than money. So when you have more time than money, you do time intensive
Mm.
things rather than capital intensive things. So for me, that meant creating videos on YouTube. That meant posting on social media and Reddit. And, now I moved over to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that. So we did a lot of organic content creation because we just didn't have the money to put into ads or other, capital intensive growth measures. And also, it's like something that we or I generally enjoy. Like, I enjoy making videos. I enjoy talking to people. Like, I enjoy being
Hmm.
uh, with our customers or talking with our customers. So, like,
Yeah.
um, that was not hard for me. Whereas I think a lot of people, they get stage fright or they don't want to talk in front of a camera or whatever it may be. But I never had that problem.
No, that's awesome. No, you can tell you're quite a natural. Is that how you guys got started initially in 2012? Was with content? And like, what were your, I guess, what was your biggest strategy coming out? And were there any initial challenges when you first got started that you
Yeah.
guys
So
overcame?
Yeah, so when we started in 2012, I started with a blog. We also had a Tumblr page when Tumblr was
Okay.
still a thing, and then the YouTube channel. And I had a vision for what Beardbrand was going to be, and it was more of like a lifestyle brand. So it was going to be like apparel and accessories is kind of what I wanted the
Oh,
company to
really?
be. Yeah, and I knew that to build that type of company, it was going to take a lot more resources. So Beardbrand
Hmm.
was kind of like this side project for me for the first year. It was really like just posting stuff on Tumblr, posting a video from time to time, and uploading blog posts. It wasn't until I was able to build relationships with my current business partners, Lindsay and Jeremy, that were like, hey, let's spin this into something a little more concrete. I had um, a company sent me some products for beard oil. So we started by just selling their beard oil. So we were just purely a
Private
retailer to get
label?
started. Yeah. It wasn't private label. It was their brand and their company.
Oh, gotcha.
And,
Oh, gotcha.
and we did that for, probably about 4 or 5 months. And then we worked on launching our own line of products. So we carried those simultaneously. And there's a lot of early entrepreneurship drama in that
Hmm.
transition from
Yeah.
being a online retailer to being a brand and a manufacturer of your product. But we were able to work through all those and eventually kind of develop the product line that we have now.
That's great. What was your very first product then? Was it swapping to the beard oil and
Yeah,
then?
so we sold two beard oils or a beard oil with two different fragrances, and then we had a mustache wax that we sold from a different brand, and then our first products that we manufactured was a beard oil.
Okay, that's great. No, that's I think that's super interesting. It's always cool to hear how people get started. Like it's like for us, it was Amazon. That was all we
Yeah.
kind of knew. It was just how to put a product on Amazon. So it's really cool to hear quite a different way of bootstrapping on creating content and kind of getting yourselves out there that way. I know you were featured on Shark Tank one year. How was that experience? I've
Yes.
always been a big fan of that show. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
were actually watching it just the other night, and you were on the commercial for I think ShipStation. Was it
Yeah.
ShipStation?
I
I
think I'm
don't
going to be
know.
more known for being on a commercial than I am for
Are you
being on something. Yeah,
really?
yeah. I seem to get a lot of text messages from people,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
it's crazy. They'll run it during like big events like election night or um, like the Super Bowl or the NBA playoffs or whatever it is. So when
You're a
you
TV
get a lot of
celebrity. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I want to go that far, but yeah, Shark Tank was a great experience. We were on in 2014,
Okay.
Halloween, October 31st, and it was a very intense, strategy, like putting yourself out there, not just in front of the sharks, but also in front of like 7 million people or however many people are going to watch it. So you don't have control over the narrative and the story you tell. You kind of do in the room, but at the end of the day, it's up to the editors and the producers of the show to craft what kind of story they're going to tell about you. So I feel very
Right.
fortunate that the story they crafted was a relatively accurate representation of what I remember happening in there. And Yeah, I've got nothing but good things to say. And spoiler, if you haven't watched it yet, there is no offers, there's no deals, but they were generally not like assholes to me, or it didn't feel like they're assholes to me. I mean, they had their criticisms, but it didn't seem like a overwhelmingly negative type of situation I had.
That's good. No, I think that's just a cool experience to even just have as a person to help you kind of develop. I know one thing that I thought was really cool about you is that you really developed Beardbrand off of a lot of core values that you hold. And I think that's one of the coolest things in building a brand these days is building something that you're actually truly passionate about, not just like a cash flowing business or a quick fly by the night type of thing. And so I know that you stand really strong in those values. So I was curious if you could elaborate on what those values mean to you and how you kind of got to the point where you are at with that.
Yeah, core values. You're not kidding. It's a big part of what we do at Beard Brand. My business partners and I, we've always done quarterly strategy sessions. We try to step out of the day to day business. So we'll go to a different city. In the early days before we had, a ton of kids, we'd do two of them internationally to try to like open our mind to different perspectives.
Okay.
But in those meetings, especially in the early meetings, we would line out like, what is our tagline? What is our core values? Like, why are we doing this business? And we'll always like come back to it. It's like, are we still doing this business for the right reason? Why? What
Mm-hmm.
are we working on? What is the team doing? How do we want to, you know, make big core decisions about the business? Our core values are freedom, hunger, and trust, and those were ones that we developed pretty much in like the first strategy session, and we haven't had to change them at all. The way I look at core values, there's no right or wrong way. Like if you go to look at Jeff Bezos and Amazon, they have like 12 core values or nine or something, and they're like
Mm-hmm.
sentences. And apparently they live by them, but I'm like, there's no way I could remember nine core values. And,
Yeah.
so like we just put down a lot of words that represented us. And, and, and a lot of those words could really be summed up with like, one word. So like, growth and improvement and, like drive and all those things, and came down to like hunger, and then like trust
Mm-hmm.
and relationships, and like caring, and all that stuff comes down to like our core value, trust. And then freedom is like the big definer for like why we're doing this business. Is we want to live our own life, but we also recognize that customers have rights to choose
Right.
who to buy from us or not buy from us. And that independent spirit and being your own person, like that all comes down to freedom. So we found that, like, in my opinion, like the core values really kind of work as a triangle, because if you have like too
Okay.
much freedom, you start to lose trust. And if you have too much like trust, then like maybe your hunger is going down, or like you're not really pushing things to the level. So finding like kind of like this harmony of core values that work and work together with each other was something that we found kind of works well for us to keep us balanced and keep business sustainable and growing and moving forward.
No, that's great. I think it's just really fascinating because it's definitely something we talk a lot about and was a huge part of our business that we grew is building a brand that had like values that you can share and a mission behind that, because anybody could sell beard care oils or anything or water bottles like we sold, but nobody can sell it with the mission and the values that you have. And I personally think that's going to be like your biggest differentiator, especially in competitive markets, to have those kind of values that people can align with and be like, oh, that's me, and you see that more and more, especially in competitive markets, that I think it's not only good. I think it's necessary to really like put your foot down on what you stand for and get a group of people to raise their hand and align with that. So would you say that's really helped? I know you have a really good community behind Beardbrand. Would you say that your values were one of those things that really attracted and built that community, or how would you say you were most successful in building that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like in regards to building the community, I think just being authentic and being out there and just being ourselves, and when
Right.
things go bad, being open and talking about that, those are it's not like we're like trust, 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 because if you say your values without representing their values, then, you don't represent the value. So it's more
Hmm.
about like how we act and behave, and how we make decisions. And, um, every company is going to run into issues like you have a product that doesn't meet your expectations. How do you handle that? Let's say you got $100,000 of inventory. Do you throw that product away? Do you, sell it and hope they don't notice? And then if they do notice, you give them a refund. Or if they do notice, do you
Hmm.
just say, hey, this is our policy? There's so many different ways you can make a decision when something goes wrong at
Right.
business. And none of them are right or wrong. Do you tell them up front, say like, hey, this product has this XYZ problem. We still think it's good for these type of people, but we want you to know, like,
The
so
transparency.
like, yeah. So like customers will, those who take the time to read your emails and watch your videos will be able to understand that over time. I think what's
Hmm.
interesting with core values, and you kind of alluded to this a little bit, is like there's a lot of different ways to build a business, none being right or wrong. And when
Right.
you understand why you're building a business, it will help you make the decisions you make. Because if you don't understand why you're making a business, you can lead yourself down this pathway to pain and misery and having a
Hmm.
business that you absolutely hate. So, when I think about how I want to beard how I want to build Beardbrand, is like I want to enjoy doing this for the next 20 or 30 years. And if
Yeah.
I'm lucky, have something I can pass on to my kids. So when that's the case, it's like, well, I'm not going to do things that make me more money, but make me more miserable, because I want to get rid of the business. There was an interesting tweet that I just retweeted on Twitter. It was about like the two ways to build a company. And it's like, do you want it fast or do you want it long? And if you think about, if you want to build a business for length, then here are the decisions you're going to have. And if you want to build a business for speed, then here are the decisions you're going to have. And both are
Hmm.
great, because some people love that high energy of like
Hmm.
growing really rapidly, and it is a thrill. You're at the
Right.
edge of your seat all the time, but it can be like you pretty much need to sell and like recharge and like take a breath. And so yeah.
No, I think you nailed that. Honestly, I'm 100% guilty of being in that situation before, and so it's so counter to, I feel like, the entrepreneurship brain, where
Yeah.
you're like you're out there and you want to continually see month over month growth, and it's hard. It's hard not to get caught up in that. And I know for a fact with our business, it got to the point like it Live Infinitely was our company, and I loved everything we were doing. It felt like it was very purposeful and we were helping people change their lives, but we were trying to grow because we did have the goal to exit. That was like, we
Yeah.
wanted to sell. So it was like those final years, it was like I couldn't wait for it to be sold because it was just in
Yeah.
that growth and the grind. And so we were making decisions that weren't sustainable, and we knew we weren't sustainable because we knew we were going to sell. So I
Why
think
did you
it's
want to
definitely,
sell?
why did we want to sell?
Yeah.
Um, Mainly just because we wanted to take the chips off the table, enjoy ourselves a little bit. And my fiance and I had been working on it. We started in 2014.
Yeah.
We'd been
But
working on
like,
it.
so here's the question that like this is what I want listeners to think about. It's like you wanted to take the chips off the table, you wanted to enjoy yourself. Why
Mhm.
didn't you think about like how could I build a business that allowed me to enjoy myself?
It's a
And
great
like
question.
and like how do I build a business that pays me enough that I live the life that I want to live? Like, because it doesn't take
Hmm.
a lot of money to live a really good life. I mean, if you want to buy, Lamborghinis and yachts and,
Right.
five-star dining and all that, then yeah, you do need a bigger business. But like realistically, if you're a husband and wife team, you can have $1 million business printing out $200,000 a year and live a really good life, like, and do all the things that you want to do. So, and to build $1 million business, I don't want to make it sound easy, because I know it's hard, and I know a lot of
Yeah.
people have been grinding with six-figure businesses for a long period of time. But it is something very much achievable that you can find that niche in the marketplace
And
and build that
absolutely.
business.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer that you can build $1 million business off of one product using one channel. If you get that one product and you really can figure out the channel that you're going to sell it on, like that's $1 million right there that you can build. But yeah, for us, it's just like especially with our business, is like we made so many mistakes, like almost, and you can fix these. I
Right.
100% agree with you. But the biggest mistake that we made was product choice,
Yeah.
and product choice is you can always pivot and find new products, but it was the margins to sustain the type of business we were growing were just non-existent. So we had a really hard time hiring and being able to kind of remove ourselves from the business. So that was why we're like, okay, let's just take our chips off the table, reset, and now we started our next business knowing we're going to have high margins, so we can hire this
Make it
time.
someone else's problem.
Yeah. We still don't hire much because we enjoy it, but it's like now we
Yeah.
at least have the options to replace ourselves in the areas that we don't enjoy. Because I
Yeah.
absolutely think you're
Another
sorry.
one
Go
of
ahead.
the posts I made are just kind of like the holy grail. Like if you stay in e-commerce, the holy grail is like your cogs are below 20%. You know, like it's a small consumable product
Mm-hmm.
that you can ship out. It is what are the other ones I had? Average order value, kind of like like $50 to $100, something like that.
Well, and being a consumable product for
Yeah,
you, like that's just such a gold mine. And what we tried to do from moving from like our water bottles somebody would buy once to supplements or something, so people will come back, and the cost to acquire customers were offset because they come back. So I think having a small product and lightweight for shipping and a consumable is is absolutely brilliant as
yeah.
far as coming
And,
up with.
and then an audience that is large enough, like find that like really targeted niche that you can go after it, but is still large enough to support growth. Like sometimes you can niche down like way too small. So
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. No, I think that's cool. I listened to your podcast episode the other day on your 2023
mm,
and kind of recapping that. And that's such if anyone wants to go listen to that episode or Eric's podcast, it's super helpful. And just having somebody kind of go through what entrepreneurs go through and the mental battle. But when you say at the end of the episode, you said what you kind of just said earlier, where you have to enjoy the journey, and not the destination. Like the destination's fun to get to, but like you need to be building a brand that you thoroughly do enjoy the journey. And I think that's like the pivotal key in whether or not you're going to sell your business one day or keep it, for your kids and kind of pass it down, is it has to be something that you're enjoying and is sustainable. And otherwise it does become something, because entrepreneurship it's hard and it's lonely, and you have your mistakes and things don't work out. And I mean, you've obviously experienced it in the highs and lows that is inevitable for every single brand. But as long as you're actually enjoying it, then you can make it through those hard times. And I thought that was really cool, what you said in that section, as well as just your endurance capabilities. You said to be able to
high
endure.
level, yeah, high level of
Yeah,
suffering, the ability to suffer for a long period of time.
it's
I
very impressive.
You know what I think is interesting is like a lot of people it's like marriage, or it's like any kind of relationship. It's easy to get started. Um, but if you get any kind of traction, like especially a business, it's very hard to divorce your business. And I think like a lot of people don't understand the burden of entrepreneurship when they get into it, is like if you ever want to walk away from your business, you can't just be like, all right, I'm done, I'm going to take a different job, whatever. It's like you have to work with the secretary of the state to shut it down. You have to like keep your IRS taxes in line, and so like it lingers like
Absolutely.
for a year or 2 years, depending on like when you shut down the business. And
Hmm.
like you just want to get away from it, and you can't. You still get people emailing you and asking you about it. Like it comes up constantly. So um like I know there's this excitement to like jump into entrepreneurship and start a
Hmm.
business, but like think about the divorce too. And if that divorce, the fun divorces are, or the right separate, I should say separations are like, you live to be 100 and one of y'all dies first, like that's the way you kind of want to do it. And then you
Right.
just, and then your kids fight over
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
business, and you don't have to worry about it because you're dead.
No, I think that's a great piece of advice because it's exciting to just think about jumping into a million things and getting started, but it can take a lot even while you're running it to step out. I know you've done a pretty good job. It seems like in your daily operations of hiring key positions. As somebody that has absolutely have no experience in really hiring much, I'm super curious to hear like how was that process for you in getting people hired and in those positions, and how is that going now?
It was really hard for me to learn how to hire. It took a lot of wrong hires to really understand that. Our biggest mistake was the first person we hired was excellent, and so we thought we had it all figured out. And we're like, oh, all we have to do is post on Craigslist, and we get this amazing talent for, you know, who's willing to do anything and everything.
Yeah.
Um, so we invested a lot of time and energy into the formulating and building a hiring strategy. We there's a process, we didn't come up with it. There's a process called top grading, and basically the premise of this is like you have a multi-step process, and every single step of the process you're letting the candidates know that you're going to be doing reference checks with
Okay.
previous supervisors, and then at the end of it you do reference checks with those supervisors. So that automatically is going to like screen out all the people who are just kind of like C and below candidates because they know they're not going to have any good references. And then we've ended up finding a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm moving to Austin, or I just moved to Austin, or my spouse moved to Austin, and I came with them. So like those are the type of talent where they had to leave their old job and they're looking for new opportunities that are like valid versus someone who's like, yeah, I got fired from the last three places, or
Yeah. No, that's
not everyone
helpful.
gets fired, like you know so it's like you have to
Yeah.
kind of like read between the lines. No one's going to be like, yeah, I got fired from this job because I'm an incompetent, but um and then
Yeah.
there's like good questions as like part of like the interview process. So we call it the top grading interview. Is we'll ask them, when we call up your supervisor, how are they going to describe you? um so
Oh,
that's
that's a good question.
like a truth
Mm.
telling question. And the other one is like also like, what are the things that your supervisor can improve upon? So what you're looking for is trends. Like if because you do the same 10 questions with, we do them with three of their previous employers, and
Mm-hmm.
then we're looking for trends. So if it's like every single one of their bosses could communicate better, then probably the candidate is not a very good communicator. Like they probably don't understand very
Yeah.
well. So it's like, like you get a really good, strong feeling of what the candidate is going to be like when you ask these questions, because they're asked in a way that forces them to reply as truthfully as they can.
No, that's great. I think that's super helpful for anybody in the position looking to hire. That's something for sure I'll take because that's just not our biggest strength and never has been. But pulling back, I guess, for people just getting started in e-commerce, what would be the one piece of advice that you would get somebody looking to start now? Is there anything in specific you would tell them?
Yeah, I think entrepreneurs is what I call people who want to be an entrepreneur and they've never started before. I think the pieces of advice that I have for those people is you just have to do it. You just have to start, and you have to like focus as much time and energy in the early days to, well, you have to be really good at prioritizing your problems. And in the early days, your problem is you have no sales. So as much time as possible needs to be going to that. Don't worry about your
Mhm.
taxes and your IRS and like your QuickBooks and your bookkeeping and like product sourcing, all
Mhm.
that. Like you just focus on sales, focus on sales, focus on sales, focus on sales. When you have too much sales to handle, then you can start worrying about all the other things. And trust me, like, the you'll if you get penalized by the IRS or your state or whatever, like if you're making money, it's going to be fine. So you'll be able
Yeah.
to kind of pay those things. Um,
No, that's great advice. And for getting your first sale, what would you do now if you were to start over to get your very first sale?
That's like I've been thinking about that because there's always this like part of my gut or my heart that wants to have like multiple brands and like to build like a little mini empire. So I'm always
Uh-huh.
thinking about like new ideas and new businesses, and I waffle between like, should I just buy a business, and just like
Yeah.
leverage that. Someone's already taken it from zero to one and gotten rid of like a lot of the really early lessons.
Mm-hmm.
But then I do have like some like really unique things that would be unique. So I don't know. I just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. It is. It's tough. I remember when we were running our business too, I was like, man, we could do a vegan company, we could do a pet company, just like random stuff that we saw was performing well on Amazon. And also knowing that different industries sell for higher multiples, we're like, because that was always just our goal, build and
Yeah.
sell. And so we're like, we really need to look at the pets. And we've like our dream has always been to start some sort of pet company. But getting started anymore, I think I always tell people Facebook ads is definitely for the first sale. And I know on your last on the podcast episode I listened to you, that's something that you're focusing now more on is Meta as a channel and of advertising. Is that something
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
working directly on, or
I think when you think about the channel for marketing in the early days, you have to think about what do you love. Like if you
right?
love um, creating content or selling, if you love selling, then I do think that ads are a great way because you really have to understand the language of the sale. Like I don't think ads
Mm-hmm.
are effective unless you know how to
Absolutely.
convert. If you love educating, then you think about the channels. Is it going to be like blogging or is it going to be video education? And like that's a
Mm-hmm.
different style, and you can still grow effectively, although differently through that. And then there's also just like you can go to trade shows, you can go to farmers
Yeah.
markets. So like there's
Yeah.
so many different ways. Like you have to think about what do you love doing, and when
That's
you
great.
realize like this is what I love doing, then you can start to build the business around that. Because like when the business is built around your loves, then you're going to want to fight through and solve the problems that come up in business. Now, the problems aren't fun, but when you're doing it in a way that is enjoyable, at least you're not battling that. It's like, oh, I hate writing, and now I need to write
Yeah.
another blog post. Like, you're not going
Yeah.
to write that blog post when push comes to shove. So
No, that's great
start,
advice.
yeah, just start with what you love, because there's a million different ways to market your company, and you just got to do it the way that you enjoy the most.
That's great. No, I love that piece of advice. I've always myself just been in Facebook ads, wanted to try content, wanted to try all these things. So it's not something I often think about as much. So that's even just a helpful reminder for me, just like other things, other
Yeah.
ways you can do it.
But
But
I mean, ads are cool. Like you can build a great business on Amazon, or not Amazon, on Facebook alone. And,
uh-huh.
well, even Amazon alone too. Like you don't even have to
Yep.
mess around with like a Shopify store. And so it's like that too. Like, do you like photography? Do you like copywriting? Do you like web design? Build on Shopify. Do you like data and analytics and analyzing the marketplace? Go to Amazon. Like, did I say those right? Because
Hmm. Yeah.
so like there's so many great ways to build a business. Like do you like products? You don't even have to make products. Like, do you want them physical or digital? Like you can build
Absolutely. Yeah.
uh,
No, that makes total sense. What would you say of all the channels is your personal favorite?
I mean, I like making physical products. I feel like there's just something nice about having like something you can touch and feel. And then I, I mean, we grew on YouTube organic as a channel. It's been a bitch to me in this past 18 months, so it's not my favorite right now. Um,
I think you got like 2 million followers or something on YouTube now. Is that
yeah,
right?
our big
That's
channel has a couple million subscribers, and our small channel has a couple 100,000. And
that's amazing.
yeah, but now like no one's watching it, so it's like I got all these subscribers who aren't watching it, so it's another problem you got to work through. But
Yeah.
That's part of the game. It's never always up and to the right. There's
Nothing
some.
ever stays. It's like you always, especially in the digital landscape, you're always having to change and
Mm.
adjust. And that's what I love and hate about it because it's exciting because you can learn a lot every day. But then it's like you finally get it down and you learn it, just have to go relearn it again.
I
So,
think like one thing that I think is a interesting way that I enjoy is like if you enjoy relationships, like working
mhm.
with influencers or content creators, and doing collabs with them is a really fun and interesting way to grow. So you can leverage
Yeah.
their audience and their trust that they've built, and then you get to meet cool, interesting people. So we've done collaborations with um, many creators over the years, and I feel fortunate to know a lot of interesting people and have spent time with them. And that might be a harder, smaller scaling channel, but it is a
Uh-huh.
very rewarding one if you're a person who likes people.
No, that's cool. That's something we're recently just trying for the first time with our new e-commerce brand. We've done a few collaborations, and it's just nothing we've ever like really known how to do quite yet. So I'm excited to learn a lot more about that. And do you think was that a big part of your marketing throughout the 12 years, or would you say just a good small percentage?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you categorize it, because we've got a couple of regular content creators that post on our Beardbrand channels, so they're not like technically Beardbrand employees, but they represent the brand. So they have driven a tremendous amount of awareness and sales to us. So yes,
Yeah.
that's a big channel. But working with other content creators who have built on their own channels has been a nice part for us. But I want to say it's like the top dog. So,
Yeah.
um, but it's kind of like the whole 80-20 rule is like you're going to find 20% of your content creators that you work with drive 80% of the volume. So really trying to find
Hmm.
those who have that message and that brand that really aligns with your product.
One new channel, new-ish, is the TikTok shops. Have you had any success with TikTok at all in that
No,
sense? No?
I brought Paul with BK Beauty on, and he's blown up to like 8 figures on TikTok shops like overnight. And I
Oh my
had him on
gosh.
my podcast and was like picking his brain. And there's a lot of really cool stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to do that. So we went out and we tried TikTok shop. I think I had 2 sales over a couple months, and then like our products got banned like all the time, and it's just like buggy as
For
heck. And
what?
it's no, it's just like TikTok shops. That's what it is. Is like you get on there, they're going to like take down your listing and ban it, and say you're doing it wrong, da 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 da. And it's just you have to like constantly fight through their incompetent software algorithm to get
Oh
stuff up
man.
there. Like Paul deals with it too all the time, so it's just like hands
Yeah,
on it. And I'm like, I'm doing all this for like $50 in sales. It's just not for
cut
us.
it.
It's not
Interesting.
my passion.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I've never even personally used TikTok yet, so
Yeah,
it's
I
been
wouldn't
like a
recommend it.
channel. No, I know.
If
I
you
just
use
I
it, I would recommend it. But like, if you're not on there, like, stay the fuck away.
yeah, it's too. I just feel like my brain will melt if I use it personally. So I've avoided it all these years,
You'll start doing
and
all these random dances to your favorite music.
yeah, yeah, exactly with beard oil and dancing with it. Honestly, yeah, no, that's been like a lot of our friends have said, "Oh, TikTok shops," and I'm like, oh, I just don't want to download that app. I have it now on my phone, but I like we're slowly getting into it. So I'm that's helpful to hear. If I can avoid it, that's something we've wanted to do.
Yeah.
Just stick with Facebook. We do an Amazon, and I know I don't I think you're not a big fan of Amazon yourself, but or do you guys sell on there now?
I mean, I'm begrudgingly on there.
You
I
kind of
don't
have
love
to
it.
be.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't love it. But we lost Target as a retailer, and basically our product offering, like we had copious amounts of inventory that was planning to go to
Hmm.
Target. So we decided to move that inventory on Amazon. Um,
That's good. I think it's really like it is that the necessary evil because people, everybody, they hear about your brand, and the first thing that they'll do is see if it's on Amazon, so they can get it like quick. And it sucks because then you don't get that customer data yourself necessarily, but some people just will only shop there. And if they go search Beardbrand and there's some other competitor there that looks similar, then you're giving your competitors your sales. So it's a
But
necessary evil.
you're never going to get all the customers.
It's
So
true. It's very
do
true.
what you love and get the
Back to
customers
your
that
freedom value,
yeah.
exactly. No, that makes sense. Well, no, that is super helpful. I have one or two final questions for you. I know beyond selling products, Beardbrand has played a role in changing perceptions around beards and grooming, but what other impact do you hope to make with your company, Beardbrand,
Yeah,
in the
so
world?
what we're doing now is if you go to our website and click on the gear tab, there's something on there called the Book of Reminders. The Book of Reminders is
Mhm.
this little booklet. It's about 44 pages long, um, that you can read in 15 minutes. I kind of like help remind you as you face the daily adversity. So, kind of walk through these 9 different chapters, and like it's kind of like built in a way to align from birth to death, and just like the different core key components
Okay.
that are very much like aligned with our core values and what we stand for. So being able to include this has been incredible. I'll get messages from people who are members of AA and they want to hand the book out um, to
That's
people
amazing.
in there. There's people who like, I mean, a lot of like I've heard some tragic things. Like a man was like in a car accident and he lost his like wife and his child and could never forgive himself, and um, talked about how the book like was a good reminder for him, and
That's
so those are the
amazing.
things that
Yeah.
really bring me joy, and I feel like
Yeah.
entrepreneurship allows me to kind of like share these messages of self-improvement, and our taglines keep on growing, and help people love the person looking back at them in the mirror. Brings me a lot of joy. Like selling products is nice and making money is nice, but that really just kind of helps fund
Mhm.
us on our mission for our customers. So
Absolutely. No, that's amazing. I did check out your book reminders, and I think that's really cool. Did you write that?
yeah, I was
Sure.
flying over the Grand Canyon on some trip, and just looking out the windows. I never tried to get Wi-Fi, and just kind of allow my boredom to take over for once, and just like the enormity of the Grand Canyon and the beauty and all that just kind of got my gears spinning.
Amazing. No, that's really cool. That's a great place to end it. I really appreciate your time today and coming on here and showing people what it's like to build a business of impact and what it can do when you build a company that you're passionate about and the lives that you can affect not only with your customers but also with your employees and then just the really cool things that you're doing. So really appreciate your time today. And if anyone wants to follow you on your cool journeys, where can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. My last name at Bandholz, B as in boy, ANDHOLZ. And then I would always highly recommend that you grab a product from Beardbrand. Our products are designed for men with beards, but they also don't know your gender or what kind of facial hair you have. So they do work for women and guys who don't have facial hair. So there's a product on there that you can buy that will help you elevate, and you can see kind of how we do our packaging and our shipping, and then also our email flows and how we communicate to our customers.
Oh yeah, yeah. Your emails are amazing, and yes, like you said, the sea salt spray. I'm telling you, girls, like I love it for my hair. When you have no time to actually curl your hair, I always use that. It goes with me everywhere. So anybody can get Beardbrand, so go check them out. But thanks so much, Eric, and yeah, keep kicking ass. So I
Yeah,
appreciate
keep
it.
on growing, as we say.
Yeah.